Hey guys, welcome back to the Passive Money Podcast. Kirby and Alex talking about all things finance, investing, money, business. Kirby, topic we got for today is the Robert Kiyosaki method versus the Dave Ramsey method.
Yeah, and that's a big debate, and you see it a lot on YouTube. They want to pit those two guys against each other. Uh, and you see, especially I'm just gonna say the Gen X or the younger generation of YouTubers. You hear them talking about how Dave Ramsey is stupid, crazy, and all that, and it doesn't make sense. And and actually, Robert Kiyosaki talked on this topic, but it's two different philosophies, and there's a reason why there's two different philosophies, and we'll dove into that in a minute. But what is your thoughts on Dave Ramsey's methods versus Robert Kiyosaki's methods?
My thoughts are they both work. It depends on who you are. I still like some of Dave's principles and apply some of them. I'm not diehard of baby stepper, but as you said, that's because I've also learned from Robert Kiyosaki's method, and that method works as well. When looking at the two, I just look at it as where financially do you want to be? And the Dave route is no consumer debt, and then have an emergency fund, invest for your future, put money away for your kids' college, and that's great. And the average American, I believe, needs that. But Robert Kiyosaki teaches about finance in a whole different way, where you are kind of changing your mentality in a way that the should I say 1% think of, the 1% being the wealthy. um, and you can also, I saw a video on a guy talking about Dave's method as well, where he admitted it works, but think of Dave, and I'm not saying Dave is using leverage or debt or anything, but Dave has his company. He knows how to employ other people, have people work for him, and he's created masses and masses amounts of wealth based off of how he's gone about doing things. And his followers may be, as they say, everyday millionaires, where they have a $1 million net worth, $2 million net worth, but you rarely hear of those calling in saying, hey, I have, $20 million, 30, $50 million. And I think Robert Kiyosaki is kind of in the category where you start hearing about people such as Grant Cardone. You start hearing about Dan Pena, um, other people in that industry, and in the, should I say, multi millionaire industry, or billionaires that have a different way of thinking and leveraging other people's money to create wealth. And as they all say, as they all can agree with each other, in leveraging other people's money, you have to work harder than simply having a goal to pay off credit cards, pay off your car loan, and invest 15% of your income until you pay off your house, and then invest like crazy and give money. But you know it's undeniable, or indeniable, however you should say that word, that those who leverage other people's money create huge amounts of wealth. And, I don't think, from just seeing the Dave Ramsey audience, they can completely grasp that. And that's understandable, from what they're learning about. But either side shouldn't be shut out to you're wrong or you're wrong. And I had to kind of come to see that as well for myself, and you helped me see it. But they both work. Dave's side is for the majority of Americans. Robert Kiyosaki's is for those that are looking to create mass amounts of wealth. And those are my views on that.
I look at it as a different way, and I look at the way Robert Kiyosaki looks at it because he actually spoke on this. It's funny that Uh, everybody wants to say, put them against each other, but Robert Kiyosaki put it the best way. He said Dave Ramsey's method of, you know, emergency fund, paying off your debt, having no debt, paying off your house and things like that. That's what's needed for majority of the people in the world. And it's one reason why. It's because majority of people will not invest the time and effort to learn financial literacy. And I heard what you said, that mass amount of wealth using it the Robert Kiyosaki way. And I've seen both sides of it. When using the Robert Kiyosaki method of leveraging debt and things like that, I've seen a lot of people use it. But the key term that everybody miss out, and YouTubers don't talk about it and anything like that, is you have to invest in financial literacy. The reason why Dave Ramsey's method works for his audience is because it's straightforward, it's streamlined. They don't have to think, they don't have to do anything extra. Follow the 7 baby steps. And if you follow them, reason why I know you will become a millionaire, because I followed the Dave Ramsey baby steps and became a millionaire. You will become a millionaire. You don't have much thinking to do. Stick to the principles. If you focus on the rules, you'll be good. I've seen hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people. And again, if you follow Dave Ramsey method and you follow it to the core, you will never go broke. And that right there emotionally is huge. I've seen hundreds of thousands of people use the Robert Kiyosaki method of leveraging debt. The problem is Robert Kiyosaki method work also, but people leverage that, but they don't have financial literacy. So I've seen, if you follow Dave, Robert Kiyosaki's, not Dave, if you follow Robert Kiyosaki's method, you will see that the people that don't invest time and effort in financial literacy, all of them go broke. The failure rate, if you follow, and we're talking about both of them, Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, the failure rate in Dave Ramsey, if you follow it to the core, just his steps to the core, there's I will say a 1% chance you will go broke. Robert Kiyosaki, following his methods without any financial literacy, it's about an 89% chance you will go broke. The key word is financial literacy. Robert Kiyosaki speaks on it all the time. You have to obtain financial literacy. You can't just go to a bank and say, oh yeah, I want to take out debt. I want to take out debt. They will give it to you. If your credit score is good enough, they will give it to you. But if you don't know how to leverage that debt and do good deals, make the things make financial sense, your ROI is correct, everything's falling in line, understanding how to refi and take equity out and deploy all that money to the next deal, how to do 1031 exchanges so you're not paying taxes. If you're not willing to invest time, effort, energy, and money into stimulating your mind on how to improve your financial literacy and how the markets work, how banks work, how financing works, how the real estate market works, how the crypto market works, how the gold market works, and actually spend your time on that instead of YouTubing and all that other stuff, you will go bust. Guaranteed. I have a lot of friends, families, colleagues, all went bust thinking that they can just leverage debt because it was so easy. I've had friends even throw Robert Kiyosaki's name out there, and the only thing they did was, oh, Robert Kiyosaki said, do it like this in the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. But again, they missed the key point. You have to invest in financial literacy. Even these YouTubers saying, oh, Dave Ramsey is crazy. But a lot of them don't say invest in financial literacy. They'll give you a formula. Well, you see how this don't make sense. Yeah, but it's because they invested in financial literacy, but they're not conveying that same message to the audience. They convey the message to the audience. Oh, see, this simple math, that's how it is. It's not that simple. It's not that simple at all. Now, both methods work. Dave Ramsey's method work, Robert Kiyosaki's method work. Where you need more time and effort is Robert Kiyosaki's method. Where you will make more money over the long term done correctly, Robert Kiyosaki's method. But you can become a millionaire doing Dave Ramsey's method, just autopilot, following the rules one by one by one by one by one, and you'll get to baby step 7 and you will become a millionaire. Both ways can get you rich, but one way can get you poor real quick, fast, and hurry if you're not doing the numbers. Like right now in the real estate market, you've been hearing me, you got the calls from me. I'm on deal number 12 now. Because the housing market is still at its all-time high. I'm winning bids now. At first, I was just getting outbidded. I'm winning bids now, but you see, the numbers are all incorrect. The seller is giving bad information. The seller is not giving any concessions, and it don't meet my financial matrix. If I just follow Robert Kiyosaki's method blindly, just thinking, oh, just take out some debt and you're good, I will be cash flow negative. But because I follow Robert Kiyosaki method and have the financial literacy, I know when I see a bad deal.
Right.
It's not just, oh, you just take out debt, just keep taking out debt, keep taking out debt. It has to make financial sense. And so 12 deals, no deal came about yet. And it's because the numbers are just not adding up. But unless I had the financial literacy to know that, then I would just go blindly and be like, yeah, that deal makes sense. Let me get some debt on that. And then I'm cash flow negative. And then something bad happens and I can't afford the mortgage, then I'm screwed. Dave Ramsey method, how he goes about it is paying off debt, eventually paying off your house, and then going paying cash for rental properties. If you paying off cash for a rental property and the tenant don't pay the rent or the tenant moves out, you don't have to worry about coming up with a mortgage payment.
Right.
And Robert Kiyosaki's method, if the tenants don't pay the mortgage, then you better make sure you got some cash reserves sitting.
Right.
So that's what I mean. Both methods work, but Robert Kiyosaki method means you got to put more work in the game. Can you make a lot more money in Robert Kiyosaki's method? Yes. But you can go broke faster without putting in the time and effort and knowledge to learn the financial literacy side of it. And Robert Kiyosaki says it all the time, but people just gloss over that and make it seem like, oh, it's just one guy's ideal against another guy's idea. Both of them have two good ideas. The one that takes up more people leisure time, takes up more people I want to do what I want to do time is Robert Kiyosaki method, because you still need to invest in financial literacy. So that's the real difference between the two to me.
No, exactly. And I like that you said that because I mean, I love watching Dave Ramsey's videos. I still learn from him to this day. But you have to ask yourself when you're starting your financial journey, where do you want to be? And I remember when I was doing Dave's method, and then I got to, at the time I didn't have a house, so I got to like baby step, I guess you would say 4, 5, 6, or excluding the 6. But I got to that point, and then I was like, where do I go from here? I'm investing, but I want more. And you told me, you said, yeah, you feel stuck, don't you? And I did. And you have to ask yourself the question before you start your route. Do you want to, just, as you said, go autopilot, just always have money in the bank, have cash reserves, and just sit back, go to your day job, 9 to 5, come back home every day, and just be comfortable?
And
Or
most people do. And most people want that.
exactly. And that's, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, there's people that are perfectly okay with that. But, either you want that or you want more out of life, and you want to, as a lot of people would say, build an empire, right? And if you want to go that route, it takes a lot more dedication, discipline, and I would say a lot more knowledge than it does the Dave's route. And you hear all the time with, listening to, the podcast that Dave has, where, the Ramsey personalities will talk about, life comes up, you want to go on a vacation, you want to do this. And, in the Robert Kiyosaki way, it's vacation comes way later, right? Your focus is build right now, like give it 110%. There is no time for vacation. And a lot of people cannot dedicate that much of their time, or they don't have, I would say they don't have it in them to go that far. And so the Dave route for most people works rather than the Robert Kiyosaki method. But there's so many different topics that can be talked about on this. I mean, one of the things that still kind of like irks me is seeing some of the Ramsey personalities, and maybe I'm hearing them wrong, but Ramsey personalities and Ramsey followers say, it just doesn't work. You can't leverage money. It's not an option. But the richest man in the world leveraged money. So how is it not an option? And that just opens up a whole, topic for discussion. But that's what I got.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I don't bemoan the Dave Ramsey followers because they have something it's simple. It's simple. And again, it comes back to financial literacy. They don't have the financial literacy to understand that side of it. And I'm not saying that they should have it or that they need it. All I'm saying is both of them can get you there. It's just how you want to get there and how fast you want to get there. Robert Kiyosaki will get you there faster. But again, I made millions both ways. But it's literally about how much, and most people don't want to give up their time. Most people want to do 9 to 5, and then after 9 to 5, I did my 8 hours. I want the other 16 hours to do what I want to do. Sleep, watch whatever on YouTube, Netflix, and chill, whatever they want to do. They don't want to put in that time. Following Dave's method, they can listen to it on the way to work, way home, read, Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover book, which is a great book. I recommend it for everybody. And they can just follow those steps and then be literally on autopilot if they're disciplined. If they're disciplined, they can achieve their goals. Because, and I'm not saying $1 million is no money, but that used to be the goal for everybody. So if their goal is to make $1 million and have $1 million in the bank, Dave Ramsey will get them there. If you want $10 million, how aggressive you want to be with it and how dedicated to how much money you want to put of your income in, mutual funds, you can get to $10 million following the Dave Ramsey method. The key of it is the Robert Kiyosaki method is just another form in a way, but both ways, and I don't know why people misconstrue this, both ways, you still need capital. A lot of people that fail, leveraging debt, because they don't have capital in the first place. Especially before 2009, everybody was getting these rental properties and things like that, putting 3% down. So they're paying max mortgages and things like that. Then a tenant can't make the mortgage payment or make the rent payment. And then next thing you know, they can't make the mortgage payment and they get foreclosed on. Right. Because they don't understand ROI. You want to get that payment down, that monthly payment down low enough so in case a tenant moves out or a tenant can't pay, you can still absorb the cost. Right. So you see people over leveraging themselves because they don't know what the heck they're doing. And it comes down, like I said, for about the 20th time, financial literacy. So invest in that and you can pick whatever route you want to pick. But if you don't want to invest your time in that, then you need to stick to the Dave Ramsey method. But both of them will get you there. That's honestly my view on it.
Right. And that's key too. Like a lot of, not just Robert Kiyosaki, but I know like Chandler David Smith talks about having cash reserves, or I believe he mentions, I could be wrong, but I believe he mentions 6 months of cash reserves for all his properties. Right. And there's other investors as well, but they all invest their time in financial literacy. And, as you said, that's what it comes down to. And, another thing that, the Dave Ramsey side talks about is, don't invest in single stocks, invest in mutual funds. But as we talked about in a previous video, if you do your homework, investing in financial literacy, you can invest in single stocks, knowing what you're investing in and create income. It's worked for me. It's worked for you. It's worked for our class. And as Robert Kiyosaki says, if you know what you're getting involved in, if you know the area, it is not risky because you understand it. And so by investing in single stocks, you can create income for yourself. And, one of the things I always think about, as you were talking about with, you know, getting $1 million net worth, that's like I guess the key goal, right? Like the
The
goal.
Holy Grail.
Yeah, the holy
The
grail
Holy Grail.
for the Dave Ramsey people, getting $1 million net worth. And, $1 million isn't a little bit of money. It's a lot, but, you know, if 600,000 of that is tied up in your house that you live in, that's not being rented, and then 380,000 of that is in 401k and 20,000 is in your emergency fund, where is your wealth? If wealth is defined by how long can you sustain yourself without your job by cash flow, at that rate, your wealth is tied up in an emergency fund. And you're a millionaire, but if you lose your job, you got to figure something.
Right. And then how do you extract that cash out of, how do you extract that $600,000 out of the house when they're saying you can't be in debt?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the thing is, and Dave Ramsey is, and I love his model. He is for the working class. He's worked for the working class people. Everybody he talks about in his uh most of get a job. And I agree 100%. Get a job. Everybody should get a job. What I mean by everybody should get a job is, if you don't want to, I'm always going to say this. If you don't want to invest the time in learning how to make money passively, then go get a job. And starting out, you need a job to start making money passively. This whole ideal of, oh, I have no money, I'm sleeping in my mom's basement with $0, I can turn it into $1 million. You better have some knowledge or have some forethought or have some literacy somewhere in some arena that you are a value add to somebody to make that to fruition. It's not a zero-sum game of, oh, I got $0 and I'm gonna turn it to 1 million without doing nothing. Work has to be done, even in passive income. Capital has to be allocated. How do you get that capital? Get a job. Get educated. And I'm not talking about college education. Get educated on something that will bring value to somebody else. And that's so, like me, let's just use my barbershop, for instance. Anybody can't just show up at my barbershop and be like, oh, I want to cut hair. You better get educated on the fine arts of styling hair and things like that. So you're a value to me. That means I'll employ you. It's not just, oh, I can just show up anywhere and I can just turn 0 to 100,000. Because me, I had to work. I just saved all my money, created the capital, and then, like I said, went down the Dave Ramsey journey, buying rental properties for cash. But now I realize I can extract that money out and buy more and more properties and pay no taxes instead of selling properties and paying taxes, 1031 exchanges and things like that. If I wanted to sell and pivot to another property, those are the things that comes with financial literacy. But I actually had a call the other day, and a female stated, she said, well, they say I got $100,000 in equity in my house. How do I get the money? If you follow the Dave Ramsey method, like you were just speaking about it, you follow the Dave Ramsey method, there's no debt. So you can't extract that money. It's just, oh, your house is worth $100,000. I mean, you got $100,000 in equity in your house. It's good to talk about, but you will see the money when you sell the house. If you follow Robert Kiyosaki, it's, hey, you got 100,000 in debt. I mean, 100,000 in equity. What are you going to do? You can extract that out, not pay taxes, and then pivot and then put in another investment. But most people, when they see they got equity in their house, they want to do stuff foolish like, oh, I'm going to remodel my house. Oh, I'm going to put my kids to school. Oh, I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to do all this other stuff. If you're taking out debt for anything other than to make more money, I believe you're wrong. If you're taking out debt for as far as equity to do anything that's not to make more money, I believe you're wrong. And I believe that wholeheartedly when you say some methods about Dave Ramsey, and Dave Ramsey still agree with, but Robert Kiyosaki believes it also. You don't take out debt to buy liabilities. You just don't. And that's the difference between the two, but they have the same goal, the same objective. and that's to make people financially well off in the future than they are now. So both of them, again, I've said it a couple times, both of them have their niche. Uh, Dave Ramsey is more of a, hey, we won't do this. Robert Kiyosaki is, hey, let's showing you a different way to look at money. But they both agree that by going in debt for depreciating assets and liabilities are wrong. That's the part that they both agree on, and I agree with them on that. And then I just choose to use what method works better after that.
Right. And it's important that you
And
brought
it's
that up
important that
too.
you brought.
Both, not just Dave Ramsey, but Robert Kiyosaki talks about, you don't use debt to buy liabilities. And, even Warren Buffett talks on that, where he's mentioned, Warren Buffett being the richest stock investor who invested in a single stock, um, talks about pay off your credit cards, right? So he himself said, I can't think of any investment that's going to make you 25% a year. So why would you keep paying someone else 25% a year, pay off your credit cards? So it's, you know, people that, are in the billionaire class, they have financial literacy. It's not like they listen to Dave and then became billionaires. I mean, they took their own path, but they all still have, common points where, liabilities is not something that you want to have in your portfolio. And I think that's very important because I don't think a lot of Dave Ramsey followers grasp that, where when these investors are talking about using and leveraging debt, it's not to buy clothes or vacations or anything like that. It's using debt so that you can buy a cash flowing asset and use that cash flow to pay off the debt.